Cool pick. All right, number 7 for me. Okay, another movie I didn't draft when we did our draft. Probably would now. This movie, it's been with me for a long time, but in recent years, I've realizing more and more how good it is. And one thing about it is I've focused more on the original and not the sequels, whereas I used to sort of lump them together. But the original, I think, is a good movie. I love the score, love the premise, all that stuff. The reason it's only at number 7 and not higher is because I think the ending's kind of lame. So, and that's Nightmare on Elm Street.
Huh.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, Keller talked about it. I just add that, yeah, I love it. But more and more all the time. I've come to appreciate it more and more. And the big 3 slashers are, for whatever reason, thought of as Jason, Michael, and Freddy. Freddy's, I don't know. I mean, I think that has more to do with the time period and the way they were marketed and stuff, and maybe the target audience, than in actual likeness. Freddy is very original, that movie's very original.
Yeah.
And really good. But then the ending, you know, after all that, and she wins and she defeats Freddy and stuff, just that little cheesy, like, dream-like scene at the end with the car, and it's like, oh, is he coming back? I don't know. Just, I don't mind that, like, saying, hey, Freddy's not dead, you know, leave it open for a sequel. That doesn't bug me. I just don't like the way that's done. Movie has a nice button on it, and then they're like, and now here's like a really corny, but wait scene.
Yeah.
But like, all the Friday the 13th do that too. So what's the difference?
Well, I haven't gotten to any Friday the 13th yet.
But I mean, like, that doesn't ruin Friday the 13th movies for you, though. But that's where they got it, right? The whole, like, we're going to throw on a tag with one more jump scare, but it may or may not be a dream. That's straight out of, like, Friday 1, 2, 3, 4.
But at the end of Friday
5.
the 13th, she wakes up in a hospital and it's over. And
Oh, that's
whether
true.
whether
is
it
clear
did or
it's a
didn't
dream.
happen, it is wrapped up. She's
Okay.
alive, and
She's not driven away in a car.
yeah. But even it's not that I'm. That movie I feel like has a stronger button, and just I don't know. I just think that scene is weak.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
I'm just curious why.
No.
Would
Well,
you not-
I don't love the movie as much as Friday the 13th either, but I do. Just saying it doesn't get even higher because of that scene.
Cool. My number 7 also features Sarah Michelle Gellar. Chris is thinking.
I can't think of anything else she's in.
It's another
That's horror,
sequel.
I mean.
Scream 2.
She's in Scream 2.
She's in Scream 2.
Scream 2's on your...
Scream 2 is on my list. I love Scream 2. I absolutely love Scream 2. It is, other than Friday the 13th, like, I think it's one of the best sequels ever to rush out in like a year's time. But I think it did it better than Friday the 13th. It's a continuation of the original story, original characters, and it has some genuinely great suspenseful moments. Gail in the recording studio, the scene.
She hasn't seen it.
She hasn't seen it. Okay, the scene with the car and the suspense that's built up there. I can't really say too much without ruining it for Keller because I know she's into Scream. But I absolutely love Scream 2. And in terms of like rewatchability, I saw Scream 2 in the theater more than once. I was there opening day. I remember it. It was the week before Titanic came out. I went and saw it opening day. I think it was the first R-rated movie I ever went to see in a theater. And I was not carded for it, and I felt so proud that I could pass, even though I was 17 at the time. No, I was not. I was 16. I hadn't turned 17 yet. Oh my gosh, they let me in. But yeah, I absolutely love Scream 2. I love the reveal. I love Ghostface in part 2.
Huh.
I absolutely love Scream 2. You look like you're going to throw up. Stop
No,
it.
I'm not going to throw up. I'm
Wow.
just thinking of...
Rude.
I don't really care for it.
But you have to like everything on my list.
Mm.
So that's a dilemma. You better start to appreciate it.
Well, the reason Keller hasn't seen it yet is just I haven't had the stomach for it.
I want to see it.
I don't hate it. I just
You can come watch
I don't
it
know.
with us,
Scream
Tyler.
is one that I think the first movie's great, and after that I'm just they're all kind of fine. But I think 2 might be my least favorite of all the ones that...
Really?
Yeah.
Scream for me, after 2, it's like a fairly consistent drop in quality for me. It's just like slowly goes downhill. It's like watching a TV show that just starts going on. It doesn't, there's no sudden drop for me. I know a lot of people hated 3, but I didn't. I enjoyed 3.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of, if just as a horror movie on its own, I'm like, yeah, it's fine. I don't, yeah, but when I'm thinking of like picking favorites, that one surprises me.
Well, good. I'm glad I was able to surprise you.
I'm not that surprised. You like a lot of sequels
I do.
that make me scratch my head.
Oh, is this Halloween 3? Is that what you're referencing?
Yeah, you like Halloween 3, you like Gremlins 2. You really are into a lot of bad sequels.
Oh, they're not bad. Just because you don't like it doesn't mean they're
Wow,
bad.
Dad.
What? What you got?
I have a sequel too.
Uh-oh.
My my number 7th is The Conjuring 2.
Ooh.
I love Conjurings. I think part of the reason I really love it is because I had really low expectations because I really didn't want to be disappointed because I really wanted to see it and you hadn't seen it. And so, but when we watched it, it just blew me away. I really love the like whole tent and like how the
Crooked Man thing.
Yeah, the Crooked Man thing, but like that whole just tent area where like the bus ends up riding back out and like he like throws the bus in and it just rides back out and it's so dark and I don't know, that movie really scared me and I love being scared. So yeah, I really loved The
That
Conjuring.
movie was a lot better than I was expecting.
I
Yeah.
love The Conjuring 2.
Yeah, it was a good movie.
Because I was expecting a total like awful sequel that just ruined it, but
Yeah, me
no,
too.
it was really good.
I didn't like the tall man. Or what was he? Crooked
The
Man?
Crooked
Man.
Man. I liked the music
I thought he just was
box.
cheesy, like when he was animated.
Yeah, I didn't like that scene, but I loved when he like appeared in the tent and like the music
Yeah.
box.
Less is more with that dude, I thought.
I think The Conjuring kind of struggles with that a little bit, especially the second movie.
The less is more
Less
concept.
is more.
Yeah.
Like the reveal where she has to figure out the nun's name.
Yeah.
And you see, like, the whole movie, I was watching that in the theater the first time I saw it. I kept going, why did it say Valak all over her house? Why are those letters and those words everywhere in their house? That's the dumbest decor I've ever seen. So then when it got to it, it wasn't like, oh my gosh, I subconsciously saw those letters. It was, oh, it's not just like the name of her decorator.
Yeah, I didn't notice it, so that didn't bug
Yeah,
me
I
at
didn't
all.
know.
thought
I didn't
that was-
notice it at all. It wasn't like it was like, oh my gosh, that's what happened with the whole Bible. I thought she was like ripping it up because it was demonic and stuff.
There
But,
was
yeah.
that one scene though with the nun in the den that scared me pretty bad.
Yeah. That
Yeah,
part.
Conjuring 2 has some really
Ugh.
good scares.
Conjuring 2 is good.
The face in the water and the.
I'm calling it a good movie.
That's
Good
really
choice,
good.
Keller.
Thank you.
Okay. So we're at number 6, yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Numéro 6, if there are any French speakers or people living in France. Don't judge my terrible accent. like Keller just did.
We do have listeners.
Hey, you don't know.
Number 6 for me, my favorite Stephen King adaptation, Silver Bullet.
Really?
Yep.
You judge me for Dr. Sleep and Scream 2, and you got Silver Bullet on there.
Yeah, I think Silver Bullet's a much better movie than
love
both
Silver
of those.
Bullet. I just didn't consider it a horror movie as much.
Because Wolf watches it?
Because Wolf watches it, and anything that I first saw with Wolf, I guess if Wolf now saw like Jeepers Creepers, I would still consider it a horror movie. But if I originally watched it with Wolf, it just doesn't press the horror.
I think
button.
Silver Bullet, I don't think it's super scary, but it is a horror movie. I love the feel of it. I love the atmosphere. I love Gary Busey in it.
That's the scariest part of the movie.
It kind of is. He's fantastic in it.
If Gary Busey was my kid's uncle, they would not be spending time with him.
He's wonderful. Yeah, I had a lot of Uncle Reds in my life. I think I've mentioned this whenever we talked about it before, but it is the only Stephen King adaptation that I think feels like a Stephen King book. That's the atmosphere. Here's the thing with Stephen King. He writes horror, but it's not scary. And nothing by Stephen King is legit scary that I can think of. So I have a hard time. But what is it about him? You once described his writing as comfort food. Yeah. Like, that's a perfect analogy for it. I love it. Love his books. A lot of them anyway. There's some I don't. But there's nothing profound about it. He's a very good storyteller. And he creates atmospheres that I like. And I feel like it comes through in that movie. I like it a lot.
That's fair.
Yeah. Like it a lot. When it came down to making my list, I'm like, yeah, that's a movie I want. Again and again.
That was probably the one that was like most horror for me that didn't quite make the horror category.
Mm-hmm.
That one and The Fog and The Thing were all really close to me considering them horror. Yeah.
We're going to have to circle back to that. The Thing not being horror. What is it?
And Happy Death Day. The Thing not being horror. The Thing,
You feel like it's like a National Geographic science?
Honestly, that's what it felt like to me the first time I watched it. I was like, well, the first time I watched it, I feel like I didn't quite appreciate as much as I do now, because the first time I watched it, I was like, what is this? This is like, this literally looks like I'm watching one of those educational videos in school, except it's not educational. But the second time I actually enjoyed it a lot more. For me, it's just, I don't know, it's just a movie. It's kind of a mystery movie, I guess.
Keller, your dad's face is turning red.
Kind of.
It's actually, it might be, but it's because I just
kind of a thriller.
hate Neighbors.
Oh.
And I just started thinking about how much of that is going to end up on this. So we're sitting at a recording studio, and yet we have bleed coming in from next door. But we're not in the studio. We're in the control room. Because if we went into the studio, we don't have a monitor set up in there, so I can't make sure the session's running correctly. And there's a comfy couch in here. A comfy chair.
True.
So. But we do end up with some thumping bass through the wall. I hope it's not going to end up too much. Maybe I'll be able to get it out. Okay. I got distracted by what?
That was
movie
number
are we on?
6, right? Silver
Oh,
Bullet.
we're on Jeremy's movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, Keller just all of a sudden is throwing out Thing not being a horror movie. Just threw this whole thing off. Okay.
Throwing out. Keller almost just got thrown out.
You're off the show.
My number 6 is The Evil Dead. This was another one where I really struggled.
2 Evil Deads on your list. Huh?
Between choosing and original, like when we drafted, I chose Evil Dead 2 because the only way I could fit Evil Dead in somewhere was as a creature feature, which you then argued. But I really do love both of the first 2 Evil Deads. I love Army of Darkness too, but it's not anywhere near those 2 for me. It's like Friday the 13th, the charm of the low budget, what they were able to pull off with such limited resources was incredible, and I loved it. It terrified me the first time I saw it. I was scared to death, and I didn't even focus on the funny aspects of it. And for years in my mind, it was not funny at all. It was just terrifying. And the second one was where it got funny. But there's some pretty good, funny, silly moments in the first Evil Dead. And it has some major flaws, and I love them and I embrace them.
Yeah.
Some of the writing, some of the acting,
It was introduced to me as being his college project, which it's not, right? It's like based on a movie he did for his college project.
I believe so.
So I was expecting something like dumb.
Yeah.
And it legit creeped me out. For I was young. But yeah. That's a great movie.
Yeah. I love it.
I didn't think it made your list because I thought you liked 2 more based on the draft, I guess.
Well, the first one doesn't really have any creatures. I mean, it's got zombies, but
yeah,
the second one's got more like creature stuff towards the end and everything.
That's true. It's been a while since I've seen Evil Dead 2. I need to give them all 3 of them a good watch, but I've seen 1. I always end up watching 1 and not the other 2 a lot when I do it.
2's usually my go-to, but I do like the first one more, I think. Obviously, it's higher on my list.
A little late for I think.
But, I mean, this list, it's changed in the last 24 hours.
I know.
The ordering has
it's such
changed a few times. So.
Day-to-day thing to try to say, oh, this is...
Yeah.
Yep.
What you got?
So going along with surprisingly good low-budget movies, my number 6 is Shrooms. What?
Really?
Yeah, I loved
No,
it.
there's nothing wrong. I didn't see that one coming.
I loved that movie so much.
Hang on, let's just take a pause here. You have so far drafted Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, right?
Yeah.
I know you like Shrooms better than Conjuring 2. Wow. Shrooms is
I
awesome. I love
that
Shrooms. Don't get me
movie.
wrong.
Okay, that movie.
Jeremy's never seen Shrooms. Keller, don't spoil it.
Yeah.
Oh,
careful.
okay.
Because,
All right.
I've been itching to watch it for the past
I won't.
20 years or whatever since it came out.
I thought it was like such a unique, like I had never seen anything like that before, I guess. It was such a unique, like, it fit the feel of like all these other movies that I loved with an entirely new like look on it. And the acting really did it for me. I really liked the way the acting was done and just the way the movie was done and the whole color scheme. And like there were so many times where I was like, if you screenshotted that and like put Shrooms over the cover of it, I would be like, I want to watch that movie. Just, it was so picturesque, and every scene, if you had just like taken a shot of it, I would have just fallen in love with the movie before I saw it. I loved to watch that movie. It was such a neat experience. I don't know.
Awesome.
I loved Shrooms so much.
I've been telling Jeremy for years, you gotta see Shrooms, man.
You can't tell what's real, what's not real, and
I mean, if you're at home listening and you are a horror movie fan listening, you're still probably going, what is Shrooms?
yeah.
It's the one I passed over 9 million times at Blockbuster and Hollywood Video.
Well, that's how I came across. Me and my wife were there when we kept passing over, but I was like, we should watch this. Doesn't this look dumb and fun? And okay, finally one night, and we were like, that was actually a good movie.
Yeah.
Huh. And then we watched it again, and I was like, yeah, it's a good movie.
I just feel
We'll say no more, because
Yeah.
one day Jeremy's going to see it.
yeah.
Maybe.
I hope so. I hope so.
So good.
Wish you had, because there's more to talk about with that one. But...
Yeah, there is.
All right, Keller, that's the surprise of the day, but I kind of love it.
Really?
Yeah. It's not on my list, spoiler alert. Okay, we've hit top 5. This would have been a painful list to make if you were only limited to top 5.
Yeah.
Even now, I'm like, man, I'm thinking of all kinds of movies that aren't on my list because all I have are these 5 left.
I know. I almost feel like if I were to redo just my top 5, it would change because I'm like, no, I can't leave out that one, but it wouldn't change. But, ugh.
Yeah. Well, When I came down to sitting here thinking about it, I was like, wow, I really do love this movie this much. And then I'm like looking at it, I'm like, yeah, I do. I really do. Kind of surprised me, but I figured it'd be on my list lower, but it got to 5, and that's Jeepers Creepers.
Really?
Yeah, it's really one of my
Wow.
favorite movies. And I think Jeepers Creepers, it's a hard movie to say for whatever reason. I think the second one's pretty good, but the first one is a fantastic movie, and it's getting, I've heard that the fourth, it's just getting trashed. I didn't see it, but it's getting trashed. And the third was terrible. But I think the second one's fun. Second
It's
one's
like
just
fun
kind of
and
a fun
dumb.
movie, but man, that first one is good.
Ugh,
Good movie.
so good.
Yeah.
I agree. I love it. Not enough to make my list, but
A lot of great movies not on these lists. They're
Yeah.
just,
oh yeah.
so, I'm not like insulted it's not on your list. But
You are a little bit. That's okay.
no.
My number 5, I think, is the first one that's been on all 3 of our lists. And that's Nightmare on Elm Street.
Okay. Yep.
Nice.
As it should be.
Yep.
I love the original Nightmare on Elm Street. I also love part 2 and 3 and 7.
Yeah.
4, 5, and 6 have some moments.
3 and 7.
Less
I
so
like
5
a
and
lot.
6. But I love the original. It was another one that I saw as a kid, and it scared me to death. I think I think I shared the story when we did the draft about watching it edited on USA in the middle of the night, and then was so scared that I had to turn it off, and I was watching a rerun of Webster, and then I didn't get the resolution, and so it haunted me for a long time until I finally saw the ending, which you didn't like.
Yeah.
But I love Nightmare on Elm Street. I think Wes Craven did an amazing job. It holds up really well. Anytime I show it to somebody and it's their first time seeing it, they seem to enjoy it. It's very 80s, but it doesn't feel dated to me.
No, it's really good. It's got awesome music, awesome special effects.
Love the music.
And I love Heather Langenkamp.
Yeah, me too.
I love her.
She's great.
And it's Johnny Depp before he was Johnny Depp.
Yeah, very young Johnny Depp.
There's some questionable acting from the mother.
Yeah.
But other than that, I think all the actors do a pretty good job. Another one with the charm of a low budget. And they embraced it. And the special effects, you'd have no idea that they were as cheap as they were. I love Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. All right. My number 5 actually really surprised me because it's not one I think about a lot, but mine is Woman in Black. I don't know. This movie really scared me. It really scared me, and I didn't think it was going to, and I really didn't want to see it because I thought I would be really bored because it has that lighting that just makes me want to go to sleep. Not even go to sleep. It makes me want to go do something more exciting. Like, but I thought the lighting was used really well, and what really did it for me was the first scene with the 3 girls. Can I say? Okay.
You've seen it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, with the
I
3
don't
girls
remember anything about it because I didn't love it. But.
have a tea party, and then they see the woman in black, and then they just start walking towards the window and jump. That's what woke me up and made me realize, wow, this isn't another like boring movie with this lighting that's just all aesthetic, no plot, no scary, no nothing, no action, which I don't really like action, but no excitement. No, this movie was like different, and it just really, I don't know, I really enjoyed it, and it made me really scared. And it made me scared like afterwards, which a lot of movies don't do.
Cool.
Yeah, I think that's a really good movie. I love the use of, I guess I don't know if you, I know Jeremy didn't love this movie, but I love the use of the tide in it. And
Yeah.
there's an area where he's out at this creepy haunted house that you are stranded at high tide because the road gets buried in the ocean. I thought that was a really cool plot point. Okay, number 4, Friday the 13th. Movie has a very special place in my heart. And it is the first R-rated movie I ever rented. I was surprised my dad said okay. But I was like, oh, well, here we go. I started renting all the horror movies I'd been longing to see for so long. But this one was at the top of my list. And I loved every second of it, man. I was just so into it. And then at the end, I went, huh? Wait, what? So I was expecting a hockey masked killer. Not an old elderly woman. And then it ended, and I was like, I loved it. And then ever since then, I've never not loved that movie.
Yeah.
And then when I finally got to the hockey masked, what I was expecting, I was like, I like that one with the old lady better. You know, it's just such a good movie. It's a classic. It's really a whodunit. You know, if you are fortunate enough to have been able to see it without any expectations, like, it's just a good movie. It's got a really cool score. It's totally sets the mood for that movie, and it's not like doesn't affect me in the way that, like, say, Nightmare on Elm Street music does, but it goes with its movie perfectly. And it also has that little ditty of a song, Sail Away Tiny Sparrow, which I'm very fond of.
That song is what made me fall in love.
Yeah.
What got me into horror, got me to actually watch a horror movie.
This is a weird little side story real quick. We were driving in the car one day. In fact, we just bought a new car, the one that got smashed by a bad driver recently. So we're waiting to get that car back. Anyway, we were driving in that car when we first got it. Had the iPod shuffling or something, and Sail Away Tiny Sparrow came on, and my wife was like, what is this? You know, like, and I started laughing. I said, this is the song that's playing in the cafe in Friday the 13th. And she was like, huh? And Keller was like, this is from Friday the 13th? And I said, yeah. She's like, I want to see that movie.
Yeah.
Can I see it?
I don't know. It was out of the blue. It was
and
out of the blue for me,
because of this
too.
song, she's like, yes, let me see it.
Yeah.
I have to see it. I was like, okay, sweet. And thus it began.
I remember you sharing that with me and just going, okay.
It's a head scratcher, but
I can't.
It almost seems like it was divine intervention.
I can't
life changing.
explain it.
God used Sail Away Tiny Sparrow to get Keller to see
heard
this
that
movie.
song.
Yeah, some things are important, and however it needs to happen.
It was like a maturing moment for me, because it was like one of those songs where it's like, what? I don't know how to describe it, but as soon as I heard that song, it was like, the song just told me, like, I need to see this movie. I don't know. It was just
So we have a Halloween playlist
brain switching. I don't know.
in our house, the family Halloween playlist, and it's got like a bunch of Alice Cooper tunes on it. It's got horror movie themes. You know, it's got like a lot of rock songs that just kind of have a Halloween-ish theme. You know, it's got some classical as well. You know, like of course the Bach toccata and D minor. You know, but and then Sail Away Tiny Sparrows nestled in with it all, because
I think it's on mine too.
That's awesome. I actually really like the song.
It's catchy.
Mm-hmm.
Good for Harry Manfredini.
Every time I hear it, I smile and my face hurts.
It's used during the scariest part of the movie, which is when you think it's over and it's not.
Yeah.
All right, let's do that comparison just one more time real quick. Jason jumping out of the water scared the crap out of me the first time I saw it. She's sitting in that boat, you got the peaceful music going, and then, bam, it legit made me jump. Good jump scare. I think it's the best jump scare ever made. You know, the Nightmare one doesn't. It's just like, oh. That's kind of, you know, that was my reaction to that. So,
do you think if the mom in Nightmare was a better actress,
maybe,
that it would help that scene?
That's what really made me, was like the mom just staring off all smiley and then getting pulled away. I think that's what ruined that scene for me.
I get also not a likable character, so
No.
I
Yeah, the
like when
character herself.
when that happens, and it's like Alice is likable. She gets pulled into the water. You're like, no. Yeah, but they were going for a Deliverance. Have you ever seen Deliverance?
Mm-hmm.
So when I saw Deliverance for the first time, I was like, huh, that's like the ending of Friday the 13th. And then I found out later they were going for the ending of Deliverance with that.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's fun.
Mm-hmm. What you got for number 4?
My number 4 is a little movie called Friday the 13th.
Awesome.
That's funny.
That's
that it
perfect.
ended up in the same spot for both of us.
Yeah.
I love it. I just love it. I don't know that there's much more to say about that. It holds up just like Nightmare. I show it to people all the time that have never seen it before. And without fail, every time the reaction is, wait, where's Jason?
Yeah.
So that's fun. I love it. I just love Friday the 13th. It is a comfort food for me.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't make me want to like stab people or anything. But if I need comfort sometimes, I'll pop on Friday the 13th.
Yeah.
It just hits that spot when you need it. And it reminds me of when I saw it for the first time and I was 12. Yeah, I was 12. And it's just comforting.
I think I told this to my wife the other day. I think it is the most rewatchable movie of all time. And maybe that's not for everybody, but honestly, I've probably seen that movie more than any other movie.
I watch all of the Friday the 13th about once every year or two. Lately, it's been about every year because my kids like them. We watch them edited off of cable. But I watch the original Friday the 13th multiple times every year. So yeah, it might be one of the most rewatchable movies of all time. I love it. It's great.
Cool.
No notes.
Well, sorry to break the chain of Friday the 13th being a number 4, but
You've already done it, right?
yeah, I've already done it. Yeah, it's on the list. Don't worry.
It was way down there below, like
Yeah,
Shrooms.
it was.
Oh my gosh.
It's weird to think about. But my number 4, I think, is my most rewatchable movie. Even though I don't rewatch it a lot, I feel like no matter what, it's just gonna surprise me every time. And it was... So first when I started watching horror, it was like everyone was my new favorite, but this one was like actually my new favorite, like very heartily, and that's Scream.
Scream.
I love Scream a lot. I was finally starting to get a love for that slasher trope when I watched Scream, which was perfect. And it also scared me more than the others did, which I like to be scared at least a little bit. I also feel like I felt Neve Campbell in a similar way that I felt Nancy. I forgot. Oh, Sydney. I felt Sydney in a similar way I felt Nancy. And I also loved Ghostface. He was actually the face of horror for me before I saw it. I thought Scream was a lot bigger than it was when I first saw it. I don't know, Ghostface. But yeah, I really love Scream. And I watch it to go to sleep, and it makes me happy.
Awesome. Yep.
I do too.
It's a great movie.
I love
Okay.
Scream.
Top 3. Here we go. Number 3. I really can't say which one I like better between Friday the 13th and Friday the 13th Part 2. It depends on which one I'm currently watching, honestly, when it comes down to it. So I waffle on these. I probably don't like one more than the other, but maybe in an effort to atone for the biggest gaffe of my life when I didn't draft it in our draft, which I missed it. I forgot my strategy, forgot it even existed for a minute there. I'm putting it number 3, Friday the 13th Part 2. And yeah, there's not much more to say. Great kills, great characters. They're fun. The first few Friday the 13th have really likable characters. It's before they started doing that, hey, let's make the characters annoying so you're happy when they die. I like it better when you bond with the characters a little bit.
Yep.
And Ginny is just awesome. I named my boat after her because my boat is tough, man. It gets bumpy. It's a little boat. We were out on Utah Lake a couple weeks ago, and it was a little bit windy and getting kind of choppy, and boy, you could feel those little tiny waves smacking this boat around. But I was like, it's Ginny, man. She's going to make it. We're going to make it to the dock, no problem. So that's my number 3.
He's tearing up, by the way.
I could talk about it more, but we don't need to keep going too much on the same movie. But.
Yeah.
I just had to look it up to verify. It is Vera in part 3.
Oh. Also pre-hockey mask Jason.
You prefer the Town That Dreaded Sundown Jason?
I like,
sequel.
yeah, I do. I wouldn't care if it had a hockey mask. Like, the mask isn't really what stands out to me about it, but I like the way Jason is, the way he moves in it and stuff, and his shack is like so many iconic Friday the 13th moments come from that movie.
Yeah.
Like the shack, and then Ginny in the shack, and I mean that made it into the video game. Like, and that scene of Ginny and Jason in the shack is like one of my all-time favorite scenes of any movie ever.
Yeah.
So, yep.
Cool.
All right. I have no idea what you guys have for top 3s. I'm excited.
My number 3.
Actually, I think I know Killers somewhat. Don't know the order though.
Yeah, but there's 4 Twilight movies.
Oh. Yeah. Just never seen it. Neither have I.
My number 3 is Scream.
Woo!
I absolutely love Scream. I can't remember if I shared this when I drafted it or not, but Scream was one of the first R-rated movies that I went over to a friend's house to watch and pretended I was going to watch something else. So I hope my mom's not listening to this, because I don't know, I could get grounded or something for doing something 20 whatever years ago.
You get scolded at the very least.
But then here's the thing, I loved it so much that I kept convincing all of my friends to invite me over. I went to like each group of friends, and I would find a different one who was allowed to rent R-rated movies, and they'd go rent Scream and we'd watch it.
It's awesome.
So I love it. It's sharp, it's witty, it's funny. I love every character. I don't think there's a single character that I don't like. Even like minor characters like Principal Himbry.
I don't like the Gail, the reporter girl.
Well, we already know your opinions have been invalidated today. So
How rude.
Gail's amazing.
No. she bugged me.
Well,
Even when she turned good or
you need to continue watching Scream.
okay.
You need to do Scream 2.
Killer's looking at Gale through the lens of only
That is
first
true.
movie.
And I realize if I was doing it the same, maybe I wouldn't love her as much either. But I love all the characters in Scream. I love the score, Marco Beltrami. I love the source music they use, the actual soundtrack, is one of my favorite soundtracks of all time. And it's all artists that I would never listen to on my own. Well, I guess there's Alice Cooper, but the soundtrack doesn't use Alice Cooper. It uses like a knockoff version. But I absolutely love everything about Scream. I was the perfect age for it. I was the horror movie nerd that they were appealing to. I was the one who would have gotten every question right that Ghostface posed to me.
Mm-hmm.
And so seeing all the references to other movies, the homages, everything was just perfect for me. I absolutely love Scream.
Nice.
Yeah. My number 3, I really debated just not putting on the list because I don't think of it in terms as a horror movie. I consider it a horror movie, but I don't think of it in those terms. But it's the original It that traumatized me and then became my favorite movie immediately once I saw it the second time. I love the friendship of it. I love how they reunite. I feel like I love part 1 more. I consider them just one movie on 2 discs. But I love the kids, and I love all the scenes, all the Pennywise scenes, and it holds a special place in my heart, and I love it, and it makes me happy. Not in a stabby people sort of way either.
Those are the movies that are lower on your list.
Yeah.
I love it as well. It's been overshadowed now by the new one, but I'm one of the few who are holdouts. I like the miniseries.
I haven't seen the new one yet. So.
I like the first episode of the miniseries.
It is much better than the second.
I really struggle with, and especially the ending. But you know what? The remake.
You didn't like the ending of that one,
the first one, but the second one I really like. But the ending kind of ruins that one for me too.
It is the first horror movie I think I actually saw. Because Child's Play, I caught 20 minutes of it, and it traumatized me, obviously. But I then rented it. I remember I'd always see it at Blockbuster. Actually, it was Bob's Express at that time is where I got it. Had that double VHS. It was just the big, thick, bright white VHS case that stood out on
Pennywise tearing through it.
With Pennywise tearing through the... that it was like physically bigger than all the other horror movies on the shelf. And I had it described to me by friends who saw it when it came on TV, but I didn't see it when it came on TV. I had to wait till it came out. But yeah, so that was the first movie I really saw. So there was two parts that scared me. One was very beginning when Pennywise pops out from behind the clothesline. From the sheets hanging on the clothesline, and the other is when he turns into a Rottweiler in the asylum.
What?
I don't even remember that.
It's the bully that's locked up in the. Henry.
I completely forgot about him.
There's a part where
I didn't see that again.
Pennywise visits him in the
right.
asylum, and he turns into like a giant standing. Well, he's like in a clown suit, but it's like a Rottweiler head, and yeah. Scared me. I don't know why. It's really not a scary scene.
Rottweilers are scary.
Oh, did he? I don't know.
I want to say he did.
Yeah, that's not on my list, but that's a good movie. I like it a lot. You know what? It is probably my favorite idea of a horror movie. Book, whatever. I've read the book, seen both the movies. I think it's a very cool idea. This being entity that plays on your fears, and so it takes the form of what you fear. What a cool idea. And every rendition of the story has flaws, including the book. And it's a good book, but could do without plenty. Like a lot of Stephen King.
Yeah.
And then just not, it's like even in the book, it's just not quite the execution I want. He's done better, but probably my favorite premise of his. Anyway. Okay, here we go. Number 2. I don't remember seeing this movie for the first time, but it's not the first horror movie I saw. So it's weird because I don't remember it seeing the first time. I just feel like it's been with me my whole life. And I think it is the best score for any horror movie. And that's Halloween. I love Halloween. Pretty flawless movie in my mind. What's not to say about it? What is there to say about it? I don't know. It's a really good movie. I love the way it's paced. I love the way it unfolds. And the score, man. The score is so good. It is scary. An amazing ending. And if a sequel is never made, that's just fine because it ended, the way it was meant to. Perfect ending. Might feel a little dated in spots, but doesn't bother me with those parts. And it solidly is set in Halloween, during Halloween, and has that really gorgeous fall backdrop to the movie.
Fake gorgeous fall.
Yeah, it's nonetheless.
They do a pretty good job of the palm trees popping up in the background.
No, I mean like the pumpkins on the porches, just all those atmospheric things that they did really well. Anyway, okay. That's my number 2. I can't remember if it's come up yet on your list.
It has not.
Okay.
I love Halloween 2. Halloween also. I do love Halloween 2. And that's why it's my number 2 as well.
Awesome.
I don't know that I want to add anything to what you've said. I've already shared on your podcast about the first time I saw it, recorded it off of TV, and then watched it and pretty much immediately turned around and watched Halloween 2. I think it's just so well made. It was extremely low budget, but it doesn't have that low budget feel that Friday and Evil Dead and movies like that do. And I think a lot of that's because of Dean Cundy's cinematography. It just looks polished and professional, and there's some questionable acting moments, but for the most part the cast is really, really strong. I love the writing, the pacing, everything about that movie is just so good, and it's another comfort movie. It's another one I can just watch over and over and over again. And I realistically do. I watch it at least a couple times a year. Probably not as much as Friday the 13th, honestly, but I watch Halloween quite a bit, even when it's nowhere near Halloween. It's a great film. Number 2.
All right.
I'm gonna cry. Oh
Uh-oh.
dear. My number 2 is so hard. Not because I'm like, does it really make it that far? Because I don't know if it's number 2 or number 1. And that is The Black Phone. And I am gonna cry because The Black Phone. Of course, it was the first movie that I ever cried, and I really cried. Not because it was sad, but it was so powerful. And I love all the characters. The main kid just broke my heart every time he was sad. And all the kids who call on the phone, every last one of them I could relate to and just fell in love with. And the girl, and I don't know, the whole entire movie was just perfect. And it's one of those movies where every time I think about it, I want to cry. I want to watch it. We rented it, and
You can still rent movies this day and age, kids.
but we rented it, and I made sure I watched it a second time before we returned it, which was not that long after. But I don't know. It could be my number 1, but it's my number 2, and it's all that is on my mind. It's my lock screen. It's my
And yet it's number 2.
and yet it's number 2.
I've never seen her obsess over anything like this movie.
I am obsessed with this movie. Emotionally. Every time I'm happy, it makes me think of The Black Phone. Not me thinking of The Black Phone and getting happy. Me getting happy and thinking of The Black Phone. I love it. I can't.
So do you think it would have made your list had you remembered?
No,
Not quite.
I absolutely loved it, but I was really going for things that I would rewatch over and over and over again, and it's a rough watch.
Yeah, it is.
It is a rough watch.
I loved it, but it's a rough watch, and I have not experienced yet the rewatchability factor, unlike Keller.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Like I said, there's not a lot of modern movies, and I think that's because I have not been able to experience the rewatchability with them.
Yeah, it felt weird to pick a movie for me like that just hasn't been with me for a really long time.
Yeah.
But yeah, I did.
Well, and I think I've spoken to you about this before, but there's just so much content now. When we were kids, we had the horror section at the movie store, and that was it, the video store. And now there's just so much content that I find myself not rewatching things that are coming out now because I'm trying to move on to everything else. And a lot of the movies I go back to for comfort are movies that I saw when I was younger.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the downfall of
Yeah.
so much content out there now.
Probably helps that I'm like just seeing all these movies for the first time, so there's not much of a nostalgia factor.
Yeah.
But I don't know, the Black Phone just feels nostalgic, even though it was only like a few days ago. It just, I'm gonna cry.
It is an awful good movie. All right. I think we should do this. I'm going to recap everything I've drafted, so not drafted. I'll recap all the way to 1 here. So, 13, Black Christmas, edged out a movie that I had up till just a little while ago. The Evil Dead at 12, 11, Scream, 10, The Changeling, 9, The Black Phone, 8, The Fog, Nightmare on Elm Street at 7, Silver Bullet at 6, and then top 5, we got Jeepers Creepers, Friday the 13th, Friday Part 2, getting the nudge over Friday the 13th this week. We'll see about next time.
See about later today.
Yeah, number 2, Halloween. All right, number 1. I think this movie's perfect. It is flawless.
Are you sure it's even a horror movie?
It is a horror movie through and through. It's the perfect movie. It's The Thing. There's not a dull moment in this movie. I love every second of it. Just right, instant dun dun. The story just puts me there. Killer ending. You know, not a feel good happy button ending, but a, you know, just a cool ending. Cool
like
unfolding, cool premise,
enough yet.
incredible setting. And Kurt Russell, man, I love Kurt Russell and Keith David. They are just like in top shape. Everyone in this movie, awesome characters. I find all the characters very realistic. I find the tension between them well done. And man, if there was one scene in the world that is better than Ginny and the sweater and the head, it's the blood test scene in The Thing, man.
So good.
Yep.
I feel like I'm not quite old enough for that movie yet. I don't really understand.
The Thing?
Mom was talking about this. I was talking about this with Mom. I don't get the connection between characters because it's all so silent. Like, in most movies, like, the connection is very much spoken. It's very well established. It's very, like, not necessarily real, but
These
it's
guys
very
aren't friends, they're
shown.
colleagues.
It's very presented. Yeah.
Well, and
maybe that's what you haven't quite experienced.
And
they're all men, too.
Yeah.
And men are not, traditionally not as good at communicating as women.
Yeah. But yeah, a lot of Keller's favorite movies are centered around groups of friends.
Yeah, that's
You know. Yeah, these guys they're co-workers. Yeah, okay, that's mine.
Nice. So obviously I was able to
Surprise.
guess what your number 1 was.
I have no idea what yours is.
I'm curious if you can figure out what mine is.
Actually, I think I might know it.
Well, let me give you my rundown, and we'll see if you can figure out what my number 1 is.
I think I do know what it is, and yeah.
So starting at number 13.
Then again, it's probably Halloween 3.
Starting at 13.
Just kidding.
Poltergeist, Arachnophobia, Psycho, Doctor Sleep, Evil Dead 2, Friday the 13th Part 2, Scream 2, Evil Dead. Yeah, all the sequels ended up right there in a row.
I didn't even realize that.
Starting with 5, Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th, Scream, Halloween. And what do you think number 1 is?
My guess is going to be Silence of the Lambs, but I don't know if you did the same disqualification I did or not.
I did not pick Silence of the Lambs.
Okay. Well, hold on. Give me one. No, that was my guess. Go ahead.
Halloween 3. Just kidding. I love it, and it almost made my list. And realistically, that's one of the ones I watch the most. I watch Halloween 3 every Halloween, but I usually watch it one other time during the year, too. The Changeling.
Oh, my gosh.
I picked as my
You hadn't done The
number 1
Changeling yet.
horror movie of all time.
Wow.
And it's actually been pretty consistent for decades. Do you remember MySpace? and you'd list like your favorite movies. I think
MySpace is before I even played with social media.
Changeling was on there. When Facebook first came out, and it was like, what are your favorite movies? It was like The Godfather, That Thing You Do, and The Changeling.
Cool.
I love The Changeling. It is the best ghost movie of all time. I love the score. The score is so beautiful and sets the mood so well. The tension, the scares. It's got some jump scares, but it has the most amazingly well-built tension scares as well. The acting is brilliant. I mean, you throw George C. Scott into a horror movie. I believe he's an Academy Award winner, right? I mean,
I don't know, but he's great.
Patton?
He's
great. So good. Yeah. He had so much chemistry with Trish Van Devere. I mean, obviously they ended up getting married. I don't know if it was before that movie or after. Everything about that movie is perfect for me. It's believable. Like, it's not outlandish in any way. It's just a perfectly made movie. The set, the costuming. It's another one. I mean, it came out in 1980, but it holds up so well you would not ever go, ugh, it's an 80s movie. It's just a great ghost story. Yeah. And I love everything about it, even Minnie Huxley.
So, I think I would have, had it crossed my mind, I would have said, oh, because I know there's no way that wasn't going to be on your list. But because we'd already talked about it when I had it on mine, I don't know, it was like gone for me. So yeah, that's great.
Yeah, I have a good bluffing face.
Is Silence of the Lambs one you would have considered and it just didn't make the cut? Or
yes.
is okay.
Yep.
I wasn't sure because I mean, I think that's like one of the best horror movies ever made, but I think of it more as a thriller.
Well, and I think the difference between Silence of the Lambs and something like, Friday the 13th is, in Silence of the Lambs, we're not focused on the killer or the victim. We're focused on the people trying to catch him. Mm-hmm. And I think that's why a lot of people, I think, don't consider it a horror movie.
No, that's right.
Because it's more of like a cop procedural movie.
Yeah. That's why I would say it doesn't quite fall into this category for me. But I love it. Okay. Cool. Good pick. What you got, Keller?
All right. I mean, I'm not going to, actually cry. It's not, more emotional than the Black Phone. But, well, my rundown, 13 is Jeepers Creepers, 12, Friday the 13th, Part 2, 11, Friday the 13th, then Nightmare on Elm Street, Halloween, I Know What You Did Last Summer, The Conjuring 2, Shrooms, Woman in Black, Scream, It, The Black Phone, and then number 1 is The Conjuring.
Okay.
Oh, wow. The Conjuring was the first movie I ever saw that scared me. And I just, after you've seen The Conjuring, you have been put through something, it feels like I'm catching my breath at the end. I feel like I've lived through that experience. I've lived through that story. I absolutely loved all the characters. And the funny moments in it were almost like, it was a different type of funny because it wasn't a comedy. It wasn't putting it into I don't know, a different perspective like comedy sometimes does for me. It was just really funny, but in a different way. And I loved all the characters, even though I don't know all the girls' names anymore. I did at one point. And I love the use of the house because I love big sets that all of it's used. And that's what The Conjuring does, where it's a big house and every room is significant in its own way. You have the room with the supplies and the room, each girl has their own room, and there's the part where you always see the sleepwalker going through. And I just love it, and I feel like I need to see it again so it can really compete with the Black Phone. I can really decide which one's really my favorite, but I think it's The Conjuring. Just, I love it. I love Annabelle in it. I love everything about that movie.
Watching Keller and Hazel watch The Conjuring was like hilarious.
I whimpered.
They were both like whimpering.
I love The Conjuring, and I was really concerned that The Conjuring 2 was on your list and not The Conjuring. I was very relieved that it ended up as number 1.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, The Conjuring's really good.
And that's why I was so scared to watch the sequel and why my expectations were so low, because I'm like, I can't. Like, I almost was disassociating it with The Conjuring just to be able to handle it, and then it was pretty good.
We'll adopt that same attitude if you watch any more.
Yeah. But I even, like, I wrote a piano piece about The Conjuring, pretty much. So, like, yeah.
Did you play that one for me?
Mm-mm.
We, like, recently recorded it. So.
Oh, you told me about it.
Yeah, she was
You
telling
told me
yeah.
about
Yeah.
it. That's what it was. When I saw you a couple months ago, or last month, whenever that was.
Yeah. We've circled back to composition.
Yeah?
Thanks, Keller. You just made this.
Relevant.
Yeah. Cool. So, thought we could maybe talk about call them honorable mentions, I guess.
Yeah.
Up until like a few hours ago, Black Christmas wasn't on my list because I just had ruled it out. But then when I thought about it, anyway. So the one it bumped off, and I had a hard time letting it go, was 30 Days of Night. And neither of you have seen 30 Days of Night as far as I know.
Nope.
And you both need to. It's so good. So I won't give any spoilers, but you kind of know the premise, right? Like,
Yeah.
premise is there's a town very north Alaska where, dead of winter, they lose the sun for a whole month. And there's vampires that find out about this. And they're like, hey, so there's no relief. There's no daytime to come break it up. But they are not typical depicted as like they're not traditional vampires, so it's different that way. But man, it's good. It's really good. I was kind of sad to see it go. Other ones that were very close for me were The Omen, Let Sleeping Corpses Lie,
Which I finally saw after years of you trying to convince me to watch it. I
Both of
finally
you
watched it
Yeah.
this week.
Yeah. Keller was
not
not
love it.
impressed.
Neither was I.
Yeah.
He said it was all right.
Had some moments.
Yeah.
I didn't hate it. I thought it was a good.
Yeah. It didn't make my list. I'm just saying it. Friday 3 and 4. And there's a ghost movie called The Awakening. Very cool.
That's a ghost movie?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
And The Mothman Prophecy. Prophecies. I don't even know what the title is exactly. The Mothman Prophecies, I think. Yeah, but not quite. These 13, pretty solid.
And for how
Solidly
much you-
13.
For how much
The
you
top
talk
three.
about Let Sleeping Corpses Lie, I thought it was going to be like in your top 5.
I was surprised too. I thought it would at least make your list, period.
Yeah.
As much as I love it, it's still a freaking zombie movie, man. Yeah. It's very scenic. It's very, very visually satisfying to me. But no, it's yeah.
Cool. My runners up. So I said that I had ranked all my choices, and the ones that also got a 10, but I bumped them off the list in order were When a Stranger Calls, the original, Night of the Living Dead, The Eye, the original Chinese one, and The Conjuring was on my list but got bumped off when Chris said I couldn't combine because I had 4. Scream. what was it? Scream.
That wrecked a lot of your
Evil
list.
Dead, Friday the 13th.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
That's funny.
Oh no, it was those 3, and then I was like, oh, The Conjuring's just barely not going to make it. My other really highly ranked ones, and well, actually, here's my whole list of other stuff that just didn't make the final cut. Halloween 3, Pet Sematary, the original Saw, Child's Play, Joyride, My Bloody Valentine, Ready or Not, but the rewatchability factor, the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Freaky, The Fog, Phantasm, Halloween H2O. I just love that one. I don't know why. Silence of the Lambs, It, Carrie, the original, Suspiria,
I love
the original,
Carrie.
The Omen, the original, Get Out, The Orphanage, The Amityville Horror, and Drag Me to Hell.
That's a lot of stuff to get through.
It's a lot of favorites. That's the
Yeah.
problem. I didn't even include things like, I knew that Friday 3 would not make it in there, even though I love that one.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't include any more Halloweens other than H2O. Yeah.
You just named something that I was going to say something about, and I can't remember what it was now. You named a lot of stuff there. But, yeah, there's a lot of really good movies. Oh, Carrie. I don't know why I didn't really think of Carrie, but I think Carrie's a really good movie. Yeah.
I think Carrie's
Still
better than the book.
Doesn't contend. Yeah, I started that book one time, and I didn't finish that one. I just was kind of not feeling it. It's not even that big of a book. It's one of his smaller ones, really, so...
Yeah.
But it just, it didn't, at least in that moment, wasn't doing it for me. But I love that movie. What you got, Keller? Do you got anything that almost made it but didn't?
Yeah. I have a big 3, actually, that didn't make it. My number 1 that was probably going to be 14, if there was a 14, is The Others. I really liked The Others. I loved the twist, and I loved how, like, the lights were used, how the kids were allergic to sunlight. And I don't know, I just thought it was a really fun movie, and it scared me, and I really loved the scene with the girl where it, like, turns and she's not actually the girl. I can't really remember the scene, but with, like, the white cloth. And
I am your daughter.
yeah, that one. And then it was probably Halloween H2O. I really liked Halloween.
No, not that one. You haven't seen H2O. You're thinking
Which one
of
am I thinking of then?
the new Halloween. It's just called
2018.
Halloween.
Oh, that's just called Halloween?
Yeah.
I thought that was Halloween H2O. Well,
No,
never mind.
That's a different timeline. It's confusing. But, yeah.
I thought it was really fun.
Yeah, that one's
I
really
don't think about that one a lot. I sometimes forget that I've seen it, but I think about it when I think of the sassy kid when I'm trying to remember, because for some reason I've grouped that in with the old Halloween. But yeah, and then The Changeling.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I liked it, but I don't know, it just made me feel lonely, and I didn't like that. Don't like feeling lonely when I watch movies.
I know what it actually was that you mentioned. That was the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I couldn't figure out how, like, where I put it, because I think it's great, and
That one was also a runner-up, but
it's kind of iconic. And in some ways, I kind of like the remake better. So I don't even know, like, And then it's kind of a hard watch. The thing about Texas Chainsaw is, as much as I love it, it's got a lot of boring stuff to me. It doesn't pace well. That was a contender for you? I thought you didn't like it.
no, I loved it.
Okay. What was your thing? What's your thing about it then?
My thing about it?
Yeah, is it that?
It's not.
Oh, I told you it's
it's because you said
something unsettling.
Oh, it's creepy. I think it's creepier than the other slashers. And then I saw it and I was like, that's creepier than the other slashers, because you meant to say disturbing, and disturbing and creepy are different.
Kids, man. Like,
seeing a bunch of blood
I'm
is
with
not
her on this.
creepy. Creepy is like, it makes you go like, whoo, or it like makes you scared and like tense. That
You're
movie.
talking the remake, right?
no, the original.
Oh,
the original.
She hasn't seen the remake. We're talking about the original.
The original was not creepy. It was disturbing, but it didn't. No, it
Yeah,
was not.
I would agree. I think it's disturbing. It's got some creepy moments,
Yeah, like when
but
she's like
overall
going for
it's more
help.
disturbing.
But, yeah. And
Okay,
like,
well, fair enough.
yeah.
That's kind of what I meant when I said it. But her and her sister seemed largely unimpressed by it.
I always seem unimpressed by movies. I have a very poker face.
I think that I don't know. I feel like it should be on the list, but just doesn't make it. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that's what's weird about it. It's like how does it not make it? But it's just I don't really want to watch it that much. Anyway,
It's fair.
in fact, when I showed it to the daughters, fairly recently, and then I was like, okay, that's the first time I've seen that in a while, and I'm good for a while.
Yeah.
I do want to watch the remake again. I haven't seen the remake in a really long time, and I remember the remake was pretty scary.
Maybe. I mean, can we really trust you?
I can't wait to show you Child's Play, man. Show you what really scared me when I was a kid and see what you think. You've been too desensitized now, though. It's not going to have the effect I want it to have. But
I think the remake of that would probably scare her more than the original.
Maybe.
Because of the world in which we live now.
Yeah.
I thought it was a fun remake, but yeah, I still find the other one scarier. The concept and everything.
Of Child's Play or Texas Chainsaw Massacre?
Child's Play.
Right.
Yeah. Because the original Child's Play is like, he's a possessed doll. You've got a walking doll.
Yeah.
The new remake is like, it's like AI.
And
It's like Terminator
yeah.
in Child's Play. Chucky's like Skynet, basically. It's a scary concept, but in a different way to me. So, one last thought here. Revisiting our drafts. I still think I have the best draft overall. I like my set of movies better than yours. But I blew it with the slasher category. My slashers is Halloween, Freddy vs. Jason, and Friday Part 3. Because I screwed up. Well, I accidentally didn't draft Part 2. So my plan was I'd draft Halloween, knew Jeremy would draft Friday the 13th, and then I was going to immediately draft Friday Part 2. That would fill 2 of my slasher slots.
My slashers are Friday the 13th, Scream, and Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah, he wins.
Thank you.
The slasher category, he wins, yes.
Yeah.
I know.
What is that?
What I would do now...
In you.
What I'd do now, obviously, I'd go with my original plan that I just screwed up. But Jeremy has it, so I can't. So, like, with what's available, I wouldn't keep Freddy versus Jason. I love Freddy versus Jason, but yeah, I think I'd swap it for Black Christmas. Because that is a good, legit slasher. And I'd probably take Friday Part 3 probably take 4 over 3. The other thing I might do is just take Friday 3 and 4. They're a good pair. They make a good pairing. But yeah, Freddy versus Jason's got to go. And man, I wish I could amend that mistake. I think I would probably, I guess if I did that, I would probably swap Black Christmas for Gremlins and just say Gremlins isn't a horror movie. Because it barely makes it, but when I was thinking of holiday horrors, and I love Gremlins, man. It's just such a great movie. But it
feels more like
really isn't a horror
monster
movie.
Comedy type Christmas movie. It feels more like a Christmas movie than a horror movie to me.
And then I think I'd have to get the Black Phone in there somehow.
Yeah.
So it'd probably, we just had that miscellaneous category. I'd take it over Drag Me to Hell or Mothman Prophecies, so I don't know what I'd do there. But, yeah. That's what I would change with what's still available. Oh, one other one. Let the Right One In. Still think it's a good... There's just a lack of good vampire movies, really. I don't know what I'd put there in its place. Because I already have 30 Days a Night. I'd consider Dracula Dead and Loving It, but I didn't want to be too heavy on horror comedies, That's what we're dealing with. So
I don't even consider that horror. It's just comedy to me.
It is just comedy, yeah,
It's
exactly.
A Halloween comedy.
So I don't know what could go in its place. And I think Let the Right One In is a really good movie. I just not rewatchable.
Yeah, I loved that movie, but I've only ever seen it once.
Same. I loved it. But yeah.
I don't go a lot off of rewatchability because oftentimes my favorite things are not what I would take if I could only take one of that thing.
Yeah, you don't have to look at it that way. It's just... Yeah, I will admit, I blew it with the slashers. But the rest of your draft is completely beneath the rest of my draft.
False.
For example, Keller.
Remember when you put it out there and everybody voted for mine?
Holiday horror. I have Gremlins and Krampus.
Okay.
He's got My Bloody Valentine and Halloween 3. Oh, you haven't seen those.
Either of those, so I don't know.
My Bloody Valentine's fine.
Yeah, you guys like My Bloody Valentine. I want to see that one.
Yeah, but I don't like Halloween 3.
I mean, I love Krampus. Gremlins, I love it, but I don't really consider it much horror.
I think you'd dig Halloween 3 and My Bloody Valentine.
Yeah. Isn't My Bloody Valentine, isn't that like another 90s?
No.
It's 1981.
Oh, I like 80s movies too. Just.
It's very
So
much
it's
in
always
the same
grouped it
vein as
into-
Halloween and Friday the 13th.
It's good. Yeah, it's good.
I tend to go for slashers, but
I think Keller would like my list better.
I don't know.
Anyway, what you got anything you would... Last year, you said you would change...
Well, I got rid of Teen Wolf because I only drafted that because there's not that many great werewolf movies.
Teen Wolf's a horror movie?
Well, no. It's horror adjacent, but I couldn't think of a second great werewolf movie, so I did that. But last year I said I would swap that out for Werewolves Within, and I stick to that. And then for horror comedy last year I said I would swap out Happy Death Day for Freaky, and
I want to see Freaky.
I would still keep that. I would keep Freaky instead of Happy Death Day. Other than that, my list is so good. I mean, it shows that you have so many doubts about your list. That should tell everyone how much your list sucks.
I don't have doubts about my list. I
Chris,
freely
it's
admit...
2 years later and you still can't get over that you blew it with your pick.
I did blow it with the Friday part 2, but the rest of the list I'm happy with. I've just seen things that I like better now, like Black Phone.
Mm-hmm.
What about paranormal category?
I have The Omen and The Fog. That's a perfect draft right there.
I have The Changeling and Poltergeist, which you haven't seen. But you've
Yeah,
seen
but
Changeling.
I like The Changeling more than The Fog, probably.
I don't.
I don't know. The Fog doesn't
They're
feel.
both really good.
The Fog doesn't feel much like a ghost paranormal movie to me. I mean, I don't know what else it would be, but it feels almost more like a zombie movie to me. Than
So if we took those, in my I think they're like next to each other in the list I just made. I think so. If we took Poltergeist against The Omen, I like The Omen way more than Poltergeist.
I haven't seen either of those. So.
I like Poltergeist better, but I do love The Omen. The Fog ruined the story of Jesus Christ and the lepers for me. Because now whenever I hear about
dear.
Christ healing lepers, I always picture pirate lepers
Oh, dear.
with glowing
Blake
red eyes.
Yeah. Those guys are cool, man. Those guys are cool. Okay. Cool. That was fun.
Yeah, we should do it again next year.
Yeah. I don't know what we're going to do next year. What do we do next year? I mean, we'll do something
What
for
if
sure.
what have
but
you done? You've done drafting, and you've done
did a
Friday
draft?
the
We
13th.
haven't done
fun.
Halloweens. We haven't done...
I don't know if I mean, yeah, I thought about that, but I'm like,
In that case, we need to start watching them.
I don't like very many Halloween movies, you know? Like, I at least kind of like all the Friday the 13th. I just have I don't want to rewatch.
Maybe you should
Deep
face your fears
Halloween
and watch
sequels.
the Child's Play series.
Okay, well, I've watched as much as I can, I think. I couldn't get, I got to Seed of Chucky,
That's the rough one.
and I was like, all right, I can't take any more.
Could do like
And then
I don't know how many.
I did watch the remake and did a lot. What?
You could do like I don't know how many already are or how many just aren't. But you could do like John Carpenter movies.
Uh,
Maybe.
I haven't seen
It's
enough.
possible.
I'd
I don't
have to
know
watch
how many
them.
wanna
movies that
keep
we
it
watch
horror.
are John Carpenter movies.
I mean, I've seen a lot. There's a good one that he did like 10 years ago or something called The Ward. I don't think either of you have seen that. I know you haven't, Keller.
Mm.
It's really good. Yeah, I would like to see that again. That's one we should watch. Yeah, we'll figure something out. We'll figure something out for sure. We'll talk. Maybe we'll pick one movie and just dissect it. I don't know. But I can't
Final
picture going
Girls.
through any other series. If any, it'd probably be Halloween, but like...
Just choosing your favorite Final Girls. I love the
figure
idea of a
something out.
Final Girl. I
Figure
don't know
something.
why.
Yep. We always do.
Yep. Got a whole year to figure it out. Okay. Thanks, guys.
Like how the rave next door stopped.
Yeah.
Oh, nope, there it goes.
It stopped, and we think it's over and we won, and then just as like the movie's about to end, the rave is back. And and ruins the whole
It's our
freaking
own-
movie for
Is
me.
this a Friday the 13th rave or a Nightmare on Elm Street rave?
I think it's more like nightmare because we never wake up from this nightmare. We could do it. We could just do a show talking about the stupid neighbors.
Holy